Okay, my friends, today it's about soil, and to be specific, tropical soils. There is a lot of talk about what's the best soil and how to amend your soil if necessary. Some people talk about poor soils, good soils, productive soils, fertile soils, and unproductive soils. And in the tropics, there are some fertile soils that are unproductive, and we have also productive soils that are not as fertile. So in the tropics, and I'm sure in other climates also, we have to deal with a number of things when it comes to productivity. One of them are physical attributes of soils. How much water can they retain? Are they retaining too much, or they're not retaining at all? And the other aspect of it is the chemical aspects of the soils, if they have the right nutrients in the right forms and in the right quantities. Well, today we're going to discuss how we can start a garden with very little resources. Maybe we don't have a lot of compost or a lot of organic matter to add to our soils. So this is a way we farm on the farm here, when we prepare just the immediate spot where our plants are going to go. As you can see here, we have some post holes. These post holes are about maybe 8 inches in diameter, and normally these are a little shallow, but normally they're about a foot deep. These are only about 8 inches deep right now. And what we will do, we will fill those up with nice compost, well decomposed material, and our plants will go immediately into that material, and that forms a beautiful initial environment for our plants to start growing. In that way, we don't have to till the entire garden. It's a very good example of minimum till. There's other examples of zero till, but this would be minimum till, where you're preparing the immediate area for your plants to go. This time of the year, we don't have the drip out because it's the rainy, so we won't necessarily need a drip. At times, we do need a drip. Now, in tropical soils, it's always a battle of nutrients. The availability of nutrients, and how do we get those nutrients in the right form to the plants. Well, after many years of working with tropical soils, it is my opinion that the best source of nutrients for vegetables and for gardening is good compost. But I am not entirely, I don't do the entire practice that say they will do in the European way of making compost, where they age their compost. Here, I usually utilize my compost very new. As it's maybe after a week or two in the compost pile and we've turned it once, I start to apply it in the field. But there's a step that we use. We use a lot of probiotics in the form of effective microorganisms, which are known generically as EM. EM is some lactic acid bacteria and a number of other basic ingredients which you can make it at home. It's not a difficult process to make EM. We will discuss EM on another little clip that we're going to have. So if you get your organic matter and you apply the EM, you allow it to settle. After about a week, you can bury it. If these holes were 12 inches deep, we'll put maybe a 4-inch layer of fresh organic matter in there that has already been treated with EM. Cover it either with a little bit of soil or with well decomposed organic matter. And then from there, we would put the seed or the transplant. By the time that transplant reaches to where that material is, that material will already is well on the way of decomposition because of the effective microorganisms that were applied on it. It will start a fermentation process. That form of compost is actually referred to as Bokashi. Bokashi is when we are utilizing probiotics on decomposing material to speed up the process. What that does is that as the nutrients are being released, the plants are able to take them up in one form or the other. That has worked very, very good for us. The probiotic in the soil increases all the flora and fauna of our immediate surroundings of where our roots are, and it also fends off some bacteria, some viruses in a lot of cases. So the use of probiotics along with plenty organic matter in a very precise area gives the best results in the tropical garden like what we have here. From here we're going to move over to the garden now. So this is an example where we have utilized the system we just saw, where we have prepared the holes with a post hole digger, then run the drip line, put our material, our compost in here, along with our EM, and then our mulch, nicely mulched down, and then planted our cassava sticks. Cassava is a tropical root. There's a lot of benefits to eating cassava, and it's a very high yielding tropical root also. It's native originally from the Orinoco River around Venezuela. That is the origin of cassava, from the Amazon River, sorry, not the Orinoco, the Amazon River, which shares a lot of the South American countries. This is a staple crop for them. Brazil, it's known in Brazil as mandioca. In Spanish we call it yuca, but its English name is cassava. So this is an example where we have prepared the immediate spot. If the camera could show, you see the material is very, very soft here. You can see the formation, all the small feeder roots, and you can see already where the cassava is already being formed, the actual root, which is what we're going to harvest, is this root here. Now this cotton is only 2 months, a little over 2 months old, and if you can see the speed of growth of this, it's because of the concentration of nutrients where it is needed as the cotton starts to form their roots. So eventually cassava would break also all of the harder soil, but because it's well mulched, you can see how thick this mulch is. This mulch, if you look down here, so many people argue that using heavy green mulch on tropical soils hinders plant growth. Scientifically we know that as green material decomposes, it utilizes a lot of nitrogen. But we also know that as it decomposes, and once the decomposition has occurred, a lot of the nitrogen is also returned back to the soil in a different process. So what we do, if you can see the richness here of these soils. So this material was applied here about 2 months ago when we were preparing these holes, and we had about 6 inches of material applied on the ground here. Now it is all the way decomposed. You can see how beautiful the soil is at the bottom here. You see all the mycelium, all the growth on the underneath of our compost, or our mulch, which has now decomposed beautifully. You have all sorts of organisms living here. So all of this is now releasing its nutrients for good growth, because the roots are now spreading out. Now, as in English, as we say that the proof of the pudding is in the eating, you can see the growth of this cassava plant. It has adapted and utilized the nutrients that were applied here. These plants are maybe 6 feet tall. They have very good leaf structure. They're showing no deficiencies. They're showing no disease at this point. Let's hope they stay like this. You never know in the tropics, but at this point they're showing no disease. There's very little insect pest damage. There's very little, if any, weeds. You can see the mulch has kept them down nicely. The moisture content of the soil is really nice underneath, and we expect from this row a very good harvest because of the vigor of the vegetation. This is a plant, actually, this is multi-purpose. We could have been harvesting these leaves and feeding them to chickens, very high protein, to livestock, to most ruminants could have been eating these as the plant is growing. In this case, I have not harvested anything from them, but the vegetation of cassava is palatable and very high nutritional value for livestock on farms like these. So this is to show that how the system works for root crops. Now on this side, we have utilized it for another tropical crop, which are pumpkins and squashes. And you and the
And
camera.
the camera will show you how they just literally take over. The size of the leaves, the vigor of the leaves, there's very little insect pests, and where there is some insect damage, hasn't shown any effect on the growth. So having your nutrients concentrated as your plant, having prepared that specific unit with all the possible nutrients that you can have locally, gives a very good start to your plants. Once your plants have started well enough, tropical soils, as the roots develop further into the soil, tropical soils have a lot of nutrients. But what you need is the initial nutrient load, so your plants they're vigorous when they start growing, so they can outgrow your weeds, they can outgrow your insect attacks.
So this is an exceptional example. This will be a beautiful textbook example of how effective the use of compost, probiotics, mulch, the drip line is, and applying specific nutrients at the point of planting. So these pumpkins were planted about 65, 70 days ago, and they have taken over this plot. Yesterday was delivery day for the local CSA group here in Belize called Pro Organic. And from this little plot yesterday, we delivered 96 pounds. That is very impressive for tropical soils. Granted, it is a local crop. This is an heirloom variety, so they do well. A word of caution, some heirloom varieties um, will, will grow excessive vegetation when the nutrition is exceptionally high and not fruit as much. So that is a word of caution in the tropics. Not all tropical heirloom crops need very high nutrients. Some of them will go into excessive foliage, excessive vegetation, and not produce what we're looking for, which in the case of this is an actual fruit. Although these heirloom varieties, also traditionally, we eat the flowers in Central America, in scrambled eggs, or just boiled, or in our rice, in our soups. So when you come here early in the morning, it is a bed of flowers also. So all the male flowers can be harvested and used in our local cuisine. It's very, very common especially in the Mayan villages, to eat pumpkin flowers. Now, this heirloom variety, you hear, normally it sets fruit in 100, 120 days is when we start harvesting. This is it's about 65, 70 days old, and yesterday we removed 96 pounds of pumpkins which we delivered to the local CSA, as I just mentioned. Much more stay behind. So this is a very good example of how the nutrient load is. If the camera will show over here, so we have a
row of okra, or actually 2 rows of okra, which were planted, and this is the okra behind us. It is also fruiting already, but the pumpkins, because of their aggressive nutrition, they have taken over the okra. I mean, we will still harvest the okra. These actually are ready to be harvested and consumed like this, but this is to show how effective the system is. It works for all crops. We're going to see some string beans in a minute, and the same has occurred because of the very rich environment we have prepared. So we go back to preparing a rich environment. You don't have to prepare the entire field. This is an acre. You don't have to do the whole acre and spread mulch and compost and get frustrated because you don't have enough material. You can do it right at the spot where your seeds are going to do. And if you continue that crop after crop after crop, remembering to rotate your crops. So right now we have squashes here. Our next crop probably would be maybe beans or another non-related crop to the squashes, and the process continues. You don't dig the hole again, but you do reapply your nutrients there at that specific point.
So this is another good example. This is another heirloom crop in Belize, and this is a string bean. Locally in Maya it's called ishpelon, and this specific ishpelon is red. This has a red tiny bean in it. Very, very delicious. But we do not grow it generally to eat the little bean, although they're very delicious.
Delicious when they're already dry, as a dry bean, as a pulse. We grow it and we eat it as a green bean. So this excellent example of this has never had any additional material given to it, any additional compost. When it was planted, germination, a trellis was built, and it's there. And these beans bear a tremendous amount. They're constantly bearing. So these are new shoots that are soon going to shoot out new beans. There are beans here, beans up there. Flower is about to open, and you can see the vigor in the leaves and the diversity. There's a lot of bees pollinating right now. If you see all the bees here, these bees we locally call them drunken baymans. I don't know the proper name for this bee. Locally we call it a drunken bayman. But they're everywhere pollinating. Again, it's to show nutrition. We're talking about nutrition in tropical soils. And nutrition has to reflect in yield. And look at this yield. There's beans, there's more beans coming there, there's young flowers, there's more, there's another flower. So it's all about yield. So you can have a vigorous plant with very little yield. So what we're trying to show is that when we use high quantities of compost, of organic matter, of mulch in the right places, heirloom crops are extremely high yielding.